my name is CherylNesbitt. I'm the founder and owner of Capsicum Culinary Studio, which is an education provider for chef and hospitality management. I was privileged to be the guest speaker this morning for the USB's LeadersAngle talk. My talk covered largely the growth of Capsicum from a small to a medium-sized business, and I kind of shared a lot of what I learned along the way. Herewith will follow an edited version of my speech. Thank you very much for inviting me to be here this morning. It's very exciting and a real honor to be able to address all of you. People think you need to be mad in order to be an entrepreneur, and sometimes I think they're right. I was a real born entrepreneur. I was selling my first thing at 5, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that just now. For me, I believe there's two types of entrepreneurs. I believe that you're either born an entrepreneur, where you do sell your first thing, generally between the ages of 5 and 8. And then I think there are people that end up in entrepreneurship through circumstances, for example, being retrenched, or someone offers you a really great opportunity to join them, something that sounds too good to be true, where you'll leave your job and you will join them and you'll become an entrepreneur. I wanted a business, after having worked for people and having my own businesses before, that I wanted to go to every single day, because you spend so much time there that you might as well love what you do. And I'm sure that from the pictures you could see, that it's just the most fun place to work. And for that, I'm really, really proud. This picture is relevant because I started, when I was 3, I cooked scrambled eggs for the first time. And when I was 5, I baked my first cake. As you can see, food has kind of always been a passion of mine. The other thing that happened when I was 5 was I started school. And I was in love with being a teacher. What happened was, when I got to 11, probably 10 or 11, my dad bought a farm in the middle of nowhere. And there's the farm in the background, you can see. It had nothing. I was horrified to discover, after we'd already moved there, and we're living in a park home and a shed that was built, that actually we were never going to have municipal water and electricity. We were always going to have a generator, and we were always going to be pumping the water from the stream down below. We ended up then moving onto this farm, and I was always looking for ways to make money. My mom had one of those old knitting machines, and I used to knit scarves in winter, and gloves and hats and balaclavas and all the rest. On the side of the farm there was where all the Zulu people lived in their kraals, and they were my target market. And I just had this roaring business going. But of course then school started again. I had to leave to go to school, and I thought, well, how can I continue my business while I'm at school? So I started franchising. I used to, before I left for school, all the local children that didn't go to school, didn't have the opportunity, they came to me, and I would give them 11 streeters. Sounds odd. And they would then go and sell 10 of them, and the 11th one they could have for free. When I got to 14, I was at high school. I was in standard 10, and I grew up in a very small farming area, as you can see, and the hotel, they opened a new hotel in the area. It was a beautiful German hotel, and they served all the German stuff. And I begged my parents to allow me to waitress. I started waitressing from standard 10, standard 8, now grade 10. And I worked right through literally until I was qualified. And I think that was where the passion for the hospitality industry then took hold. I qualified, I came top in South Africa out of all the Protea hotel students, and the reason for that was my mom said, you're a girl and you're working in a man's world, so if you want to do well, you have to be above the men. I was determined to be the best, and I was very fortunate. I was top, and I was then became a deputy general manager of a hotel at 21 years old. At that point I realized I was making money for Protea and not for myself, and that obviously didn't gel with me. I was an entrepreneur, and so I resigned. I phoned my dad and I said, I'm leaving Kimberley, I'm coming back, I'm starting a business. I started my first catering function, was for the local sawmills, and I catered for 16 people, I'll never forget. And from there, it really just grew. I ended up being one of the top 3 catering companies in Pietermaritzburg. At 23, I bought my first house, I was driving a fancy car, and kind of all my friends were jealous of me. And the world was my oyster. I was working really long hours, as you do when you're an entrepreneur. And eventually I thought, you know what, all my friends have traveled overseas, they all party at night and things that I can't do because I'm working. So it's time to sell. I had a coffee shop that did office catering, so I sold that to someone. And then 3 months later, I sold the events catering company along with the Maritzburg Golf Cup contract and a whole lot of industrial catering contracts that we had. The lady who bought the coffee shop just decided she couldn't make it go of it, so she basically phoned my lawyer and handed back the keys. 9 months later, the other guys from the that had bought the events catering company said, we don't want it anymore, we're selling it on to someone else. And basically I landed up with no money, no car, I had to sell my house, and I was basically destitute. And I thought, how can you go from having everything to nothing? And I must say, that's a really, really hard lesson to learn. So I took a job in Cape Town as the head of the hotel management division for Varsity College, and that's how I landed up here from there. So then I basically had a lecturing position, and I had a 2-year plan. I was going to stay in Cape Town for 2 years, and then I was out of here. I have read that and heard it often said that successful people wake up very early in the morning. One of the key things for me also about a business is that you need to be a risk taker. I heard Richard Branson interviewed once, and someone said to him, what would you do if you lost everything? And he said, I'd just start again. The reality is that you have to be able to have that attitude when you have your business. Just a few tips if you are starting a business, if you do have a business, which I would probably do differently, is I would probably be much more careful with my cash flow going forward. I probably wouldn't pay cash for everything up front, which is what I did. The other thing, which I think was quite key, is, and it's a very, very difficult thing to do, but is to try and hire in the key positions in your organization the best person that money can buy. I got to a point in my business where I needed to bring in more skill at a high level, and I brought in a general manager who we could not afford. 3 months after he joined me, he actually said to me, he said, Cheryl, you know, had I asked to see your books before I signed up as your general manager, I would have not taken the job because you actually can't afford to pay me. So I said, I know, that's exactly why you're here. But he took my business from the year that he joined, we did 4 million turnover. So that was his first year. The next year we did 6 million rand. The next year we did 12 million rand. And the next year we did 24 million rand. So that just goes to show, by bringing in the right person, what your business can do. The other thing which I've learned, and I don't know if any of you have heard of Roger Harrop. He's written a book called Stay in the Helicopter. And he talks about successful entrepreneurs as staying in the helicopter. In other words, looking at your business always from the top down. And what I realized was I couldn't grow my business because I was the business. You won't believe it. We didn't have any money. We were in our first year. Our lead lecturer I headhunted and sourced for a very specific reason. She was sick one day. I sent the students home with an assignment. I could have lectured them, but I knew that I would be crossing that boundary, and then they would want me to lecture them again, and then suddenly I'd be a lecturer in my own business. But I used to use that budget on my credit card quite regularly when we had no money. And I would take as many of my team away with me as possible for a weekend. It was not working hours, it was a weekend. If there was a public holiday added on, so be it. We often did the National Women's Day kind of weekend. And I would take them away, and we would do strategy. We would talk about where the business is now, what's working, what's not working, and we would look towards the future. And I really believe that having the buy-in of every employee in your company into the future is what makes us successful, because everyone knows what you're doing and why you're doing it. But when I was a trainee, Protea had a strategy that they were going to get 60 hotels in Southern Africa. That was their strategy. And I was a trainee and I knew that, and everyone in the company knew that. And everything that we did worked towards getting those 60. We knew that that's who we were going to be one day. They had everyone mobilized to that, and then they kind of lost a little bit. So as an owner of a business, you've got to always be one step ahead. You've got to know what the next thing is. So you have a long-term vision, and then you have your goal, your kind of short-term ones, so that you are always ahead. Because otherwise you'll have one of those kind of flattening off periods. The only way we can successfully have opened 6 branches around the country in such a short time is because every single thing that we do is documented. And that is another business thing that you have to do, and it's a simple thing where I take a huge roll of brown paper and I stick it up on my wall and I ask every employee to write on a post-it note everything they do, every process that they do. I knew that, and one of the things I went to do is I went and found myself a mentor, a business mentor. And again, I started getting bills for, 25,000 Rand a month. And again, you have to think really long and hard about, does the bills of 25,000 Rand a month justify the mentor? The other thing is when I had country catering, which I never did, was I never had time to party, but more importantly, I never sent myself on any courses or any training, and I never attended network sessions. Why? Because I was too busy getting business and cooking. If I look back now to all the people that are involved in Capsicum in some way or other, I've met them through my networks. I've done business with those people through my networks, and I've formed really, really strong bonds with those people. So don't underestimate the value of networking, handing out your business card, taking people's business cards, phoning people for coffee. You always think, if I take some time to go and have coffee with someone, I could be doing X. The reality is that while you're having coffee with that person, you might get an idea that can make you more money or make you succeed better. And the other thing is attending, if you can, and definitely recommending conferences and definitely international. What happens when you get too big? Your original team, you will find, becomes the next tier after the tier that you have to bring in. Sure, there's some people you can take with you. We took Dion with us. You know, he was a chef. He had the capability and the skill to take him up to the next level. But a lot of my original team, very, very sadly, we lost. My big strategy was I wanted to be a 100 million Rand company. And when you say I want to be a 100 million Rand company, and in order to be that, I've got to do certain things, and then you look at those things that need to be done, and you try to find a space for yourself in there, I couldn't find a space anymore for myself. Because my skill is not running a 100 million Rand company. My skill is not running a company of over 50 employees. Up to 50, no problem. Over 50, it's a different management skill that is required. So I had to hire in a CEO who earns way more than me. Okay? I must tell you, I was at an awesome conference last year in San Francisco that Endeavor organized, and if any of you don't know about Endeavor, you must find out. It has helped me so much in my business, and Deanne is from Endeavor, so she can give you info. The entrepreneur must stay in their business. They are the business, and they must stay. Others said the entrepreneur should get out of their business because they can mess it up. They're very divided on stay in your business, get out your business, you can still own your business, but get out. Or the other thing is to find where you're really good. So if you're the technical person, to stay in the laboratory or in the technical section. If you're very good at marketing, put yourself in marketing. Hire a CEO above you, but put yourself in a position in your organization. And I think that is what you have to know, is what do you want to be in your business? So sometimes you have to do things you don't like doing, as your employees will always tell you, and sometimes you have to just learn the next level. But I'm still a director in Capsicum. I'm still involved in the strategy, but I don't go into the office every day. One of the other things is, which I did with my help of my mentor, was I hired a management team, and the last person I brought in was a CEO. Remember, when you're an entrepreneur, you are skilled in accounting, finance, you know a little bit about everything. Your business gets to the point where you need an expert in HR, an expert in finance, an expert in all of those fields. Do you bring the CEO in first and let her choose her team or him choose their team, or do you bring or do you do it the way I did it? And so I'm just telling you the way I did it didn't work. But unfortunately, I think if you did it the other way, your current people that are still there will all leave anyway, because they do, and kind of then you don't have any stability. So in a way, possibly the fact that half of my people stayed meant at least half got it, from my perspective. Everything I've learned and know, social responsibility in your company is as important. It has to be one of your strategic points in your company, because that is going to take your company to the next level.